okay? But then conventional wisdom would say, well, Dawn Staley will coach the Philly team, right? Not so fast. Over the weekend, reports that the New York Knicks are talking to Dawn Staley. A phone call, a conversation has been had or will be had between the powers that be with the Knicks and Dawn Staley. Why not, is what I say. Why not? Now, I talked to a guy this morning, former big-time basketball player, and nobody that I've ever worked with, so don't think like, oh, well, if we want to find out, we can see who we worked with this past year. No, I actually have friends outside of that, okay? And this person told me that there's no way this could work, okay? That basically these two sports are different, and that coaching men will be much different than coaching women. So not only is the dichotomy of the locker room different, but the speed of the game is different, and that could take an adjustment period. I was like, no, not even close. First of all, I believe Dawn Staley, when you look at her list of accomplishments, the basketball that she has been around her entire life as a player, elite player. We're talking in 2004 at the Olympics, right? Dawn Staley's the flag bearer for America. This is not, and I hate to say, this isn't like Becky Hammon. No offense to Becky Hammon, amazing coach, and I'm not saying she couldn't be a head coach in the NBA. But Dawn Staley is like legendary, okay? Legendary. Legendary as a player and now legendary as a coach. And I also will tell you, having worked with women's basketball teams, having been close to the sport, covering it, let's not act like it's that much different from the men's game, okay? And let's not act like some of these women, like let's say in this case, Dawn Staley in particular, will be clutching her pearls at ways that male athletes would act or things that they would say. I'll give you 10 minutes around Kim Mulkey, okay? And very quickly, you will understand that women's basketball coaches can work blue, right? Just like comedians can, and I'm not saying they run around town, with foul mouths or anything, but don't get the idea that there's not a lot of grit and also some off-color remarks and stuff like that happen in that sport. Dawn Staley won't be shaken up by that, I can promise you, okay? Now we get into the basketball side, all right? I can tell you right now that Dawn Staley will be a better basketball coach than Kurt Rambis, Herb Williams, right? I'm trying to think of some other Knicks greats. Isaiah look, it is what it is, right? Isaiah wasn't great. I mean, I understand how he got the job, but he was there for far too long because of his relationship with James Dolan. There's a lot of bodies, right, in the New York Knicks coaching cemetery that, if you look around, it's not like, whoa, hey, you're not looking at Red Auerbach and Pat Riley all over the place, right? There's a lot of just coaches. I would say, Knicks fans, first of all, and people from a big perspective, I think New York City is a place where this would work better than anywhere else. New York City is a melting pot, right? New York City is wherever you're from, come one, come all. There is one thing that can separate you. Be the best. If you're good in New York City, it doesn't matter what you look like, right? Or what race you are, or what gender you are. Greatness is really respected there, okay? Now, we've got assholes all over the world, right? It's like, I'm listening to this book now. The book is so good. I've talked to you about it. It's, God damn, I always forget this title. It shows I'm getting old, but I want to give, Michael McCambridge wrote it. It's amazing. And it is called The Big Time. And it's about the 70s when pro sports just went to another level, thanks to TV and free agency. But it talks about guys like, Frank Robinson becoming the first baseball coach that was a black guy in 1975. It talks about how Tony Dungy was a quarterback, but because he was black, they were like, you're going to play D-back. By the way, Warren Moon wasn't drafted. The dude won the Rose Bowl and was the MVP of the Pac-8 when the Pac-8 was amazing. Now he had announced that he was going to play for the Edmonton Eskimos after he was told he wouldn't get picked in the first 3 rounds. Lee Steinberg was his agent. Like, let's not act like we've been out of the dark ages or stone ages for that long, okay? Because we haven't been. And when I get back to my previous point about there's assholes everywhere, like, you know, back then they would resort to actually writing handwritten letters and send them anonymously to people like Frank Robinson, right? Or even like Billie Jean King when she was playing tennis against Bobby Riggs, right? And so now people just resort to Twitter and fire off. So like that stuff will go on regardless. We can't necessarily have like the purge, you know, like, so we just have to navigate those ugly waters and do our best to completely be the opposite of that. But I think New York is a place where there's less of that than anywhere. And I believe Dawn Staley has the bones for this job. Now, will they offer it to her? Probably not. Would she accept it? I don't know, because there's also like things that tell you like, is she ready to? That's a lot of responsibility, and if there's someone who's cut out for it, I believe it's Dawn Staley. But man, it certainly is exciting for me, and it beats half the names that they've been talking to. And if we've learned anything about the NBA and their coaches, it ain't like you're going to sign a lifetime deal with whoever is your next coach. So there's also, and I haven't talked about this the whole time, but Rick Brunson and Dawn Staley are close because of their Temple connection. Rick played at Temple. Dawn coached at Temple, obviously from West Philadelphia. Dawn played at, I think, Dobbins. But, you know, there's a connection there that would command respect in the locker room right away, right? Through Rick Brunson. And I think that this could be a way for the Knicks to almost, and I hate to say this, it's not like you're taking Dawn's legs out from under her, but like basically the Knicks hired Dawn Staley, and it's almost like hiring Rick Brunson. But hiring Rick Brunson would just be too much because I as I've read and talked to people about, like, there was a little dissent in the locker room, reportedly, that Rick Brunson, for an assistant coach, was having like a little too much say in what was going on with the Knicks. So this is sports. It's fun. If Dawn Staley was anointed next head coach of the New York Knicks, I will be super stoked, and I will be pulling for her. Because not only that, she's an awesome person. I haven't worked with USA Basketball. I actually, if you do some real digging, okay, I wrote what I believe to be at the time a kick-ass story on Dawn Staley for the Charlotte Sting. This is when I was working for the Bobcats in PR. In the offseason, we would do stuff for like the WNBA team, and I wrote a feature story on Dawn Staley, which probably a little too wordy and flowery, but for me, it was pretty good. And you know, I think you can find it out there. And she was really cool to me, and just was really straightforward. And she wasn't like a lot of times, like, you love working with women's basketball players because they're just so willing to do anything because they want to get their name out there. Dawn's not like that. She's like a real like basketball person. So she was like, wait, what is this? Okay, cool. And she sat down and she was awesome.